The Super Smash Bros. Series is well known for its diverse selection of characters, and of everything we fans enjoy about this series, guessing who will be joining the lineup is always the source of the biggest discussions. We look for patterns and we come up with fan rules to justify our thinking, but really, we don't need to. Over the years, series creator Masahiro Sakurai has gone on the record to discuss the creative process, what has changed game on game, and what has remained the same since the very beginning. That's what this new Source Gaming series is all about. I am NantenJex, and with the help of YouTuber Yoshiilla, we're going to teach you all the secrets of character selection for the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. The time between Melee and Brawl was a lot longer than that of 64 and Melee. Between that time, the gaming scene for Nintendo had changed dramatically. The entire GameCube and Game Boy Advance generation had gone by, and this gave Sakurai a lot more to work with when deciding the characters for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. The theming of Brawl was also very different. As mentioned in previous episodes, Melee was described as the Smash Bros. Sakurai had originally envisioned, meaning everything from Brawl onwards would be almost uncharted territories for the director. So it was appropriate that Sakurai had a lot of time to take a breather from the series and really think about its future. As is well known at this point, Sakurai left HAL Laboratories shortly after Melee was released and wasn't sure if he would ever make a third Smash Bros. Game. But in 2005, he came back to the series, following a request from his close friend and Nintendo president at the time, Satoru Iwata. From this point on, he had 2 months of planning and prep to decide on the next generation of fighters. In volume 220 of Sakurai's Famitsu column, when talking about Brawl, Sakurai said, "When deciding on the roster, my main thought was, what characters does the world want to see the most? These are the requests that I wanted to fill." So from this, we can summarise that picking the fan favourites, the remaining all-stars of Nintendo's legacy, was the most important factor. But, as we will see, this definitely wasn't the only deciding factor for this roster. So join me as I explain to you all why the characters of Super Smash Bros. Brawl made the cut. And to get us started, let's take a look at the characters who were previously planned for the series. King DEDEDE. Going back to Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64, King DEDEDE was one of the 4 characters we know Sakurai had planned for the game, but never made it in, the other 3 being Bowser, Mewtwo and Marth, who all made it into Melee. There is no concrete reason given for why King DEDEDE missed out on Super Smash Bros. Melee, and he has never been mentioned to have been planned for that game. The Kirby series was Sakurai's original baby, and so it is peculiar why it never got any new additions until Brawl. This, along with the series' major importance for Nintendo and HAL, might be a big reason King DEDEDE was finally added. It's not like King DEDEDE wasn't relevant either, being in every Kirby game at this point except for the Amazing Mirror, and was even playable in Canvas Curse. This made him an obvious choice for the roster. Lucas. Mother 3 boasts one of the most tumultuous development cycles of any Nintendo title, having undergone various iterations and even a cancellation and revival over the course of roughly a decade. This rocky development was why Lucas was passed over in Melee. However, as of July 2004, just under a year before the roster of Brawl was decided, the game was considered 60% complete, and this figure inspired enough confidence in Sakurai to finally include Lucas in the game. Now, it's time for a Source Gaming fun fact. Did you know that Lucas was originally going to replace Ness entirely in Brawl, just like he was planned to do in Melee? This is why Lucas is a semi-clone of Ness and the only semi-clone in the starting roster. But when Sakurai found out that Mother 3 wouldn't be leaving Japan, he began to worry that Western audiences wouldn't know who Lucas is or why he played like Ness. So Ness was added back into the game so both regions would have a character to represent them. What a weird world this would be, where Mother 3 released worldwide and in exchange, Ness was cut from Super Smash Bros. Huh. Wario! In the last video, we revealed that if Sakurai could add one more character to Melee, it would have been Wario. So it's no surprise this big guy would be a top priority for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And with the WarioWare series being hugely popular at the time, giving Wario even more to use for a moveset, it would certainly allow for a very fun and unique character. So these are all the planned characters from previous games, but there were 2 more considered for Melee that missed the mark and had to wait it out until Brawl to get in. Solid Snake and Sonic the Hedgehog, the 2 third-party characters. For both of these characters, their original creators, Hideo Kojima and Yuji Naka respectively, requested that they be added, and Sakurai was for the idea, but the request just came too late. So this time around, the two were included from the very start, right? Well, it's hard to say. Nintendo approved of the third-party editions and negotiations began. They got permission for Snake, but for Sonic, things were a little slower, ironically. According to some rumours, Sega actually declined Nintendo's original request to include Sonic and Brawl, and so development had to go ahead without him. It wasn't until 2007, 2 years later, that Sega changed their tune and allowed Sakurai and his team to include the blue blur. However, Sakurai himself potentially contradicts this in a Famitsu column, when he says, Sonic wasn't decided early, he actually was added to the roster this year. Among the characters that were created from the ground up, he was the last one added. But this is unusual. Sakurai is infamous for sticking to the project plans he makes, only adding stuff if he thinks he has time, and even though Brawl was delayed, Sakurai confirmed that this was decided long after Sonic had entered development, so the delay wasn't a factor. Simply, it just seems to be a testament to how much Sakurai really wanted Sonic the Hedgehog in Super Smash Bros. And how much he knew fans wanted it as well. On the topic of that delay, because it was announced on the same day Sonic was revealed, many fans assume that the two were connected, when that doesn't appear to be the case. The only reason given for the delay was that there was just too much content in development, so to blame it all on Sonic doesn't really make sense. Some people also claim that Sonic's simple moveset is also the result of his last minute addition, much like his tiny role in the Subspace Emissary, but again, this isn't the case. After immersing himself in the world of Sonic the Hedgehog, from the original game to Sonic 06 to Shadow the Hedgehog to Sonic the Fighters, Sakurai decided to base the core of Sonic's moveset on the original game. After thinking about it for a while, I decided to utilise the first version of Sonic, the one from Sega Genesis. The first Sonic the Hedgehog is a game that can be played with one button. Even though it's simple, it still feels invigorating. I can understand that intention as a creator myself. With that important piece, I decided that Sonic wouldn't just be fast. You might have the wrong initial impression of Sonic if you think he is always fast. Sonic has times where he can be slow, but because of that freedom, players feel almost dizzy when he speeds up. So controlling Sonic has to be simple. That's why his attacks become the way they are. Since he's from Sega, I decided to make his neutral combo punch punch kick. I didn't forget to make him fun to play. But that's enough about Sonic. Let's move on to the rest of the roster. And next up is a character we should have probably brought up in our Cut Characters for Melee video, and this is Captain Olimar from Pikmin. Captain Olimar. Olimar is the only starting character who is from a new Nintendo franchise. So new that it actually only debuted less than a month before Melee was released. It was because of this reason that Sakurai chose not to include him in Melee, and it was because he was so quickly dismissed, we couldn't even consider him considered. But in hindsight, maybe we should have reconsidered that. But, just like Sakurai, even though we omitted him from Melee, now that we're in Brawl, we have to bring him up. And as Pikmin was one of the few new major character-driven Nintendo IPs that grew between Melee and Brawl, he made for a perfect new series rep. Remember that character-driven part, as it'll be relevant in the next video. With that, all of the previously considered characters have been covered off, meaning it's new horizons from here on out. So let's go in announcement order for the rest of the cast, meaning we start with Meta Knight. Meta Knight was another character from the Kirby series, and another character made by Sakurai. Debuting in Kirby's second title, Kirby's Adventure on the NES, he functions as something akin to Kirby's rival. In terms of series relevancy, he's the third biggest character, and Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, the last mainline game at this time, had him in the central role. This, alongside a desire to expand on the Kirby content in Super Smash Bros., made Meta Knight a surefire choice. Pit! Just like the Ice Climbers in Melee, Sakurai wanted a retro character for Brawl, and Pit fit this role very well in 2005. While there had not been a new Kid Icarus game since Myths and Monsters on the Game Boy, which didn't release in Japan, Pit had seen his first title, Kid Icarus, re-released on the Game Boy Advance. Being from an action game also meant his moveset would be pretty straightforward, which was a big issue for many other retro characters as we highlighted in the last video. So he was chosen for this roster and was given a design update so that he may better fit next to his sibling series, The Legend of Zelda. Zero Suit Samus. There are two ways we can look at Zero Suit Samus' inclusion. On the one hand, we can see it as a stroke of luck, much like with Sheik. Final Smashes were the big new gameplay feature of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and Sakurai probably wanted one of the new characters to tie into this mechanic. So a transforming character made sense, and Samus' two forms lent themselves to Sakurai's previous idea of transforming characters. One is super slow and strong, while the other is fast but weak. On the other hand, Zero Suit Samus made the most sense as a new Metroid rep. Metroid was a hot IP for Nintendo during this time, with successful iterations on the GameCube and Game Boy Advance. But most of the other characters in Metroid are boss monsters and not suited to being playable. They were just too big. Characters who could have been playable, like other bounty hunters, are mostly one-off characters, introduced in Prime Hunters, and had no future in sight, at least back then. Meanwhile, an armorless version of Samus has been a major part of the Metroid series since the first game. The big reveal of Samus as a girl and seeing her without the power armor is an iconic moment in gaming history, and Zero Suit Samus reflects this. And with the latest game at the time, Zero Mission, letting players control Samus without her armor, it began to make a lot of sense. The character just had many pieces going for her in Sakurai's roster puzzle. Ike. Sakurai viewed the Fire Emblem series as a big franchise when he was making Smash 64 and Melee, and in a way, he proved himself correct. Marth and Roy's popularity in Melee, along with the success of Advance Wars, gave Nintendo of America enough reason to finally bring the series to the West, with Fire Emblem on the GBA. Just like with Kirby and Metroid, there had been a new Fire Emblem game every year since 2002 to the time of Brawl's roster, so the franchise was very prominent. However, because of all the new Fire Emblem happening, Sakurai didn't know who to include, so initially he simply wrote down new Fire Emblem rep. Intelligent Systems were the ones who told Sakurai to use Ike, just like how they had advised him to use Roy in Melee. Ike made a lot of sense. Path of Radiance was the latest Fire Emblem protagonist at the time of the project plan, and with its sequel, Radiant Dawn, already decided on, he would be the most prominent of the series characters for some time. Pokemon Trainer. The Pokemon series was an unstoppable force and was reaching its 10th anniversary very soon, so a new character in Super Smash Bros. Was an obvious choice, and a big part of the Pokemon franchise that had not yet been represented was the trainer character. In the games, you only direct the Pokemon themselves, but the Pokemon are the ones that fight and the mascots of a mascot-driven series, so they were always the ones to be included in Smash. But a Pokemon trainer was not only unique, but a popular fan request since the original game, as seen in the Smash 2 polls. But beyond just being a Pokemon trainer, the concept behind this character actually allows Sakurai to include many facets of the Pokemon series into Super Smash Bros. That he simply could not do with a lone Pokemon. Playing as a trainer who stands in the back and directs Pokemon like in the original games is just one aspect of this. This character also represents Pokemon evolution, type matchups as the three Pokemon take slightly more or less damage in accordance with their types, such as Ivysaur taking more from fire attacks and less from water, and the concept of the starter Pokemon, all aspects that are a major part of every single Pokemon game. This is why Charizard, Ivysaur and Squirtle were the chosen Pokemon for this trainer to use. Red, the original trainer, was decided on for the design, presumably because Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green were the latest games, because Red was the original trainer, and because the original starters are the most popular, with Charizard specifically being the most popular final evolution of the three. Then Squirtle is a more popular starter than Bulbasaur, leaving Ivysaur as the final pick via process of elimination. Diddy Kong. The Donkey Kong series was in a weird predicament in 2005, thanks to Rare's departure from Nintendo. There had not been a new mainline Donkey Kong game since Donkey Kong 64 and the Nintendo 64. Now this did not mean that Donkey Kong wasn't around though. A lot of spin-offs appeared in between Melee and Brawl, most notably the Donkey Konga series, a rhythm game that required its own enjoyably silly bongo peripheral. The series was also fairly prominent on the Game Boy Advance, with ports of the original Country Trilogy and DK King of the Swing. But honestly, Donkey Kong is such a massive franchise and an important one that a new rep just made sense. And as not only the player 2 of the series, but also the protagonist of the most popular game in the country line, and the star of his own spin-off series, Diddy Kong Racing, Diddy Kong was the most obvious choice. But there is another reason Diddy Kong likely got in, and that's because of his moveset possibility. Now I'm spoiling parts of the next video here, but Diddy Kong was actually going to be partnered up with Dixie Kong, similar to how the two are in Diddy's Conquest. We don't know if this was like the Ice Climbers, or a fusion of that idea and a transformation moveset, but this was the original plan. However, due to difficulties implementing this mechanic, Dixie Kong was scrapped, and Diddy lived on as his own fighter, being the more important of the two. And that brings us onto the final four, the unlockable characters, and these first two were decided on from the start of development. First up, we have the fighting Anubis himself, Lucario. As ever, Pokemon was very relevant at this time. Lucario in particular was very important, and in the minds of many fans in 2005. The decision for Lucario seems like a simple one, mainly thanks to the anime. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl was in development throughout 2005, but a few of the new Pokemon had already been revealed. Most of these were new baby Pokemon like Munchlax and Bonsly, who both made it into Brawl via Pokeballs, but one of these new Pokemon was Lucario. Not only was Lucario revealed early, but it starred in the 2005 Pokemon movie, Pokemon Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. This placed Lucario above most other Pokemon in the public eye, and made him very popular. This, along with Sakurai's desire to have a Pokemon from the newest games be present, made Lucario a clear choice, and it probably helped that he was a fighting type. It is worth noting, however, that Sakurai stated he was one of Brawl's many characters who would have been cut without the extensive effort of the game's programmers to get him finished in time for release. So he was probably one of the last ones worked on. Rob. Just like Mr. Game & Watch and Melee, Rob fills a certain niche, being the surprise character. He's also a major part of Nintendo's history and legacy. In order to sell the NES in America and Europe after the video game crash of 1983, Rob was created and packaged alongside the console, so they could market it more as a toy and less as a video gaming device. This made Rob somewhat of an icon back in the days of the NES, despite only having 2 games, neither of which are particularly well regarded. But Rob left his impact, and Nintendo still holds him in high esteem, giving him cameos in games like Kirby's Dream Land 3 and F-Zero GX. Somewhat ironically, Rob was relevant again in 2005, as he appeared as an unlockable character in Mario Kart DS, though Sakurai has gone on record saying he was not aware of this at the time of deciding Rob. And this covers it for all the unique characters that were chosen at the start of development. But just like with Melee and its clones, a few characters squeezed in towards the end. These ended up being semi-clones instead of full-on clones, but we only got 2 of them instead of 6 like in the last game. The first of these I want to discuss is Wolf. Wolf was one of the final characters added to the game, and not just because he is literally the last one listed from Brawl in Ultimate. According to Sakurai, Wolf was a character that barely made it in due to time constraints. He was added because there was high demand for his inclusion on places like the Smash Bros dojo, and he's a popular character. Of course, if he didn't have that backing him, I don't think I could have put him in. Among the characters with high popularity, I chose one who had a high possibility of becoming realised in the game, and as a result, you could say Wolf was created. His last minute status is backed up by the fact that he is a Frankenstein's monster of a character, obviously based on Fox and Falco, but with moves taken from a whole host of other characters so he can stand out more. In the end, Sakurai asked fans to think of Wolf as a lucky inclusion. And finally, that leaves us with Toon Link. Toon Link was a prominent incarnation of Link at this time. This seems like a good place to mention it, but with the Zelda cast in Super Smash Bros, they were all updated to match the latest iteration of the series in development at the time, Twilight Princess. Link, Zelda and Ganondorf were all given their Twilight Princess designs, while Sheik was given a design from scratch so that she could match. But young Link wasn't in Twilight Princess, and at the time, and arguably even up to this day, young Link is predominantly represented with the new Toon style of Zelda that debuted in the Wind Waker. So to keep up with current designs, young Link was replaced with Toon Link, but Sakurai and his team couldn't simply make it a costume swap like they could with the other Zelda reps. Toon Link's proportions simply didn't match up with young Link's, thanks to his stubby legs and big head, so he was made to be a new character instead, and has continued to be considered one, as evident by Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now, there is actually more evidence to back this claim up, but we're gonna have to save that for the next video, as it'll be more relevant there, as it pertains to some of the cut characters of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, so make sure you don't miss that one. First off, I want to thank everybody for their patience with this video. We took some time off in December, and then that meant that this video also got sort of pushed back, and I was also sick for a week. It's been a long time coming, but I want to thank everybody for having the patience and putting up with the delay. As always, a special thank you to all of our Patreons, with the $5 plus patrons being on screen right now. They got this video a week early, and if you want to see that video a week early as well, I mean the next one, not this one obviously, then you should also sign up to our Patreon. The link is down below and on screen right now. For everybody else, and the patrons as well in fact, if you want to hit that like button, subscribe, ring the bell, whatever it is that YouTube asks you to do nowadays, do that and stay up to date with all of our Smash Brothers content as well as our other content. You can also comment down below. I kind of want to know what everyone's favourite character is from Brawl, because I know this game is so important to people, and I know its characters that it introduced. A lot of people think this is the game that had the best characters. So let me know what you think about that down below. Now, I've blabbed on enough, so I'm going to say my farewells. Just make sure that you guys promise me you'll always return to the source.